Let's play around with some tools to compress and collect and backup data. So I'm going to take a couple of important files, hosts and services, and I am going to put them into another directory and then back them up in a couple of different ways. So let's just check a couple of things. Where am I? And let's see what is in there. Okay. And I do have a directory called CS240. So let's see what's in there. All right. So it looks like I already got this partially started. I have a folder called compress2 in my CS240 directory. So let's take a look at what's in there. In there, I have the hosts file and I have the services file. So just to double check, I could do a, let's see, diff dash q for quick compare slash etc slash host. So in the root directory, doesn't it like about that? We'll find out in a minute and compare that to the CS240 compress to hosts. And I got no response. If they were different, it would say the files differ. So they're the same file. So just to double check that, we could do, say, an ls-l, which gives me more details, right? Long listing for CS240, press 2, hosts, and compare that to ls-l slash etc. Notice when I use a slash and when I don't. When do I need the root directory and when do I not? When am I relative to my current directory? They have the same file size, so that's a good size, right? 214, 214. Yeah. So point is I have a compressed2 directory in CS240, and in there are copies of hosts and services. Next thing I need to do is be in that directory to run the commands below. So let's cd into CS240. All right. And let's see, I want to the compression. I had a question about this one down here. So run the following commands: zip compress to zip compress, and it looks like I did not run that command yet. So let's run that and see what happens. So in CS 240, let's see what's happening. Zip dash v, be verbose, make a file called compress 2.zip. And into that file, we're going to stick whatever is in compress2. So again, we're going to zip up. Verbose means explain what's happening. I'm going to stick the zipped up files into that file. And the compress2 slash star means look for a directory in CS240 called compress2. And star means grab everything in that subdirectory. And we already did an ls on that above. So what that should do is take the files, hosts, and services and compress them into the file called compress2zip. And it said it did that, and there's a 58% savings. doing that. So that's related to the compression. So let's do an ls and see what's going on compared to before. And before we had a compressed to GZ, and now we have a compressed to zip, which is the file I just made here. All right, so then after that, I want to copy the zipped file to downloads, and then I want to CD to downloads, and then unzip it, and then in downloads, there should be a compressed to folder from the unzipping that we should be able to check out. So let's give that a shot. So we're going to copy this file we just made, compressed2.zip, and we're going to put that into the tilde means go to the home directory for this user, Gary. In there should be a directory called downloads. So I'm going to copy this in there. And then I'm going to CD change directory into home directory downloads. Now I could do the same. The same thing would be to go /home. Since I'm Gary, I would want Gary in downloads. That does the same thing. It's going to put me into the downloads directory. Zooms in the way here. Adjust this. Over there, please. All right. All right, so now I'm in downloads. So if I just do an ls on compress2, it's in there. Okay, so I can see that's in the downloads directory. And I want to unzip. Yep, it's a couple unzips. I want just regular unzip. I want to unzip the compress file. And notice what it says. It says it's taking the archive. Archive is a file that zip makes. And it's unzipping it. And when it does it, it's going to create a directory called compress2. And in that directory, it's going to unpack hosts and services. So before, when I did the ls compress2 zip, that was the only option when I hit tab to try and complete it. So if I do ls now, and I do tab, escape, quit, ls, start typing compress, it doesn't complete it automatically because there are two options. There's now the compress2 directory that came from unzipping that file right there. So if I do an ls -l on compress2/, why the slash? Because it's a directory, it should show me what's in there. Okay. Now, in order for that to work, I have to be in the right place. All right. Let's scroll down and play with another one. Let's check out cpio. So again, all these commands to copy, compress, uncompress, they're similar but different in the way they do it, in their syntax. And the syntax is the way you type it. And they all have their pros and their cons. So I'm not going to go for the pros and cons right now. Just there are many options for compressing files, for packaging them together to get archives that you can store for later use for a variety of reasons. Like if there's a system failure. All right, let's see. So we're going to try cpio next. All right, so I need to change my directory. So I'm going to cd out of this, and I'm going to get back into CS240, and that should be good. And ls in there is a compressed2 directory that's referenced here. So now I want to ls compress2/*. So what does that do? ls means list what's in there, and this says list everything in the compressed2 folder. And then I want to pipe the results of that to cpio. And question is, can we do without the stall? Maybe. Not sure. We do need a space there. Spaces are important. You need them. And then my claim is I need the OV options there. And remember what the greater than means? That means then send the output into, so pipe is different than greater than. So the pipe just takes the standard output of whatever that command does and sends it to this other command to do something. The greater than is a redirect of output into a file. Right? So this is redirecting output into another program, and the greater than is redirecting output into a file. And I want to put that into a file called archive.cpio. Enter. And it claims that it just did that. So that's ls. See what's going on. And now I can see that I have a file that wasn't there before called archive.cpio. Now, just curious, I'll double check this. So ls compress2, this what's in there. ls compress2 /star does almost the same thing, except it lists the compress2 as the directory they live in. And so that is probably significant. So if we try to run that previous command without the /star, let's give it a different name called archive2, it might not work the same way. Maybe. Depends on how that program cpio is constructed to accept input. And it does not like it that way. Yeah, so it is essential that cpio knows the directory that those live in, and so the /star is important to make that happen. Cool. Syntax matters. And again, every one of these programs is a slightly different kind of syntax, right? And so a lot of times I got to go to main and double check what is the syntax for this one. And here they give the, generic. And that's hard to look at if you haven't used this program a lot before, exactly what all that means. Then there's more details below. Sometimes these manual pages also have examples on how to type stuff in addition to explaining what all the different options mean. So this one does not, but it does say also see tar, RMT, and MT. Familiar with tar. I don't remember RMT. Oh, damn, magnetic tape servers. Okay, that's beyond my lifespan. It's fine. All right, we don't have to worry about that. All right, so point here, there's many ways to compress files. I give a few options here, and the syntax of each way to do it is a little bit different. And you have to be aware of the directory you're in and how each of them accepts input about where files are located. For example, cpio, it mattered that I sent it the input with the subdirectory that it lived in, as opposed to just not, because then it was confused here and it thought hosts and services lived in the same directory that I was running the command from, and they don't, right? I'm in CS240, hosts and services don't live in CS240, they live in the compress2 subdirectory. And that matters. All right. Hope this helped. Take care. Do good computing. Adios.